Good evening, everybody. It is September 3rd. I will call this closed session to order at 5 o'clock. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak, or has any correspondence been received on closed session items?
There are none.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Then we will recess to closed session at 5 o'clock. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I will call this city council meeting to order at 6:07. City Attorney Melching, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Not tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk Rosine, have you received any correspondence on tonight's agenda?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dynas.
Here.
Councilmember Diedrich.
Here.
Councilmember Temple.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Here.
And Mayor Estrada.
Here. Next, we're on the words of inspiration. Would Mr. Matthew Gilmore with VFW Post 1956 come to the podium to provide the words of inspiration? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Esteemed members of our city council and members of the public, for our words of inspiration, I've written a poem called Heroes, which I dedicate to the heroes and the victims of 9/11. Into the smoke and fire the responders went. To those saved, they were heaven sent. Over 25,000 souls were saved that day because of their own lives they gave away. On UA Flight 93, they searched their souls and made their calls. They determined their flight would breach no other walls. Lives were saved due to their brave charge. The pearly gates for them was open large. Heroes are forged off in the furnaces of hell. Their noble deeds live on for all to tell. We mourn the many lives that were taken. The acts of heroism on 9/11 will not be forsaken. The news oft highlights the ugliness of man, but hidden in the shadows, the heroes still stand. Some may say our humanity has long been lost, but I say nay, and has been purchased at heroes' cost. It is far easier to see the bad than the good. It sells more YouTube clicks than it should. We see what they want and not what we should see. Because of the brave, we are in the land of the free. The world seems gloomy at times if we don't look around. If you seek for the good, it will always be found. So chin up and eyes open as angels dwell among men. Call out the good when you see it and count it a win. In October 2020, in a Sun City apartment, 5 lives were saved by residents, firefighters, and police because of the flames they braved. In 2021 through 2023, 34 lives were saved in Menifee from drug overdose due to the swift actions of our police, although it was close. Through simple acts of kindness, we can be someone's hero today. We can be the hands of the Savior and do more than pray. We don't have to open our wallets to show someone we care, a visit, walk, reading a book, and sometimes just being there. Not all will brave the fires and face perilous dangers. Be heroes and bring smiles to downtrodden strangers. Hold open a door and thank those who do. Look in the mirror for a better looking you. In Menifee, we are better together, more so than apart. We can show the world we have heroes and do it with heart. There are many among us who have shown us the way, such as Menifee Cupboard. It takes only a day. There are many opportunities for service if we but look. Serving food to homeless or being a cook. There are veterans and widows that are unable to drive. By helping them buy food, you may be keeping them alive. May we all be someone's hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. We appreciate your words this evening. Next, we're on the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Diedrich, would you please lead us in the pledge, sir? Thank you, Councilmember Diedrich. Next, we're on presentations, and this is 5.1, Employee and Resident Worker Commute Pattern Presentations by Chris Gray, the Deputy Executive Director with WRCOG. Good evening, Mr. Gray.
Good evening. As you said, I'm Chris Gray from WRCOG. I'm happy to be here. I want to preface this by saying that I'm here today because of Mr. Carwin. We had a meeting early in the year, and he said, I want to know where people in my city are working so we can bring those companies to Menifee. And I said, well, that's great. Let's figure that out. So we embarked on a effort to look at where do people work, what kind of jobs do they hold, where are they traveling to, and is there anything that we could be doing regionally or locally to really develop our businesses to reduce our congestion. And so we have used a variety of data. Some of our data is from the US Census. It's publicly available. We've purchased some data from some big data vendors. These are folks who are, for example, have data on car trips, where people go with their phones, a variety of other sources. One thing I want to talk about is, in the beginning, is we often get questions about, are we violating people's privacy, or are we buying this data? Truth is, we're not spying on anyone. We're just buying information from somebody who's already spying on you. If you didn't know this, your car is, many of the cars that are sold today are reporting back your location every 3 seconds to a central server. Your phone knows more about you than probably yourself. And so we're simply taking advantage of data that is available. We purchase it. Much of this data is anonymized, so we can't tell someone's personal information, but we are within our rights to purchase this data, and it's widely done through our economy and through our society. So I want to just run through some definitions. So we have employed residents, so that would be people in Menifee who live in Menifee and work. Workers are people who work in Menifee, whether they live here or not. And then we're going to talk about some different trips. People travel for a variety of reasons, and so traffic engineers use 3 general categories. There's home-based work. That means you leave your house, you go straight to work. Home-based other is you leave your house, you go somewhere else. And non-home-based is that you're not stopping at either your home or your work location. These are often business trips, so deliveries, maintenance vehicles, trucks, and the like. And so one of the things we're going to be talking about is people who live and work in the city of Menifee. So that's total number of people who live and work in the city of Menifee divided by the total number of residents. And so that's important. And we also do this based on number of employed residents as well. So I want to just start off to show you how the trip purposes work by talking about the average day in the life of my family. It's myself, my 17-year-old daughter, my wife. So my daughter goes to high school. She sometimes stops at Starbucks. I'll go to work. I'll go out to lunch. We'll usually have a delivery at the house. We always have at least one one Amazon package a day. My wife might run to CVS. We may have the gardener show up the day. My daughter volunteers at the library. I might go to the gym, and then my daughter drives home. So we're not that complicated of a family, yet we generate 13, my house generates 13 trips a day. And so I just ask you to think about, your personal experience, how many times you travel, or your friends, your family members might travel in a day. And so one of the things we started off is we collected data on where people in the WCOG region go. And so what I can tell you is that on a daily basis, we have about 8 million vehicle trips when someone gets in a car in the WCOG region. So that's the 18 cities, the county, and it's about 8 million trips a day. About 13% of them leave the WCOG region to go to San Bernardino, LA, Orange. And so you might think, well, that seems really low because we have all this congestion. Well, here's the problem is that 8 million cars total, about 1 million of those are leaving the region. And there's only a finite number. There are 15 north, 15 south, 91 west, the 215, the 10. So there's a finite number of routes. The reason why we have such bad congestion, which you all know on our gateways, is we have a very small number of routes. But by and large, almost 90% of the time when someone's getting in a car, they're starting a trip in the region and ending a trip. But they're not always starting and ending in the same city. And so when we looked at the city of Menifee, one of the things we noticed is you're actually sending more people to San Bernardino County on a daily basis than Orange, San Diego, and LA. Generally speaking, our region sends more people to San Bernardino County on a daily basis than LA, Orange, and San Diego combined. So you're actually very much in keeping with the region. Now, one thing I want to point out is that the city of Menifee has the lowest number of employed residents per total population, but the numbers are actually very low. Within our region, the average is about 35 to 40%. You are the lowest at 32. But I would point out that no one is higher than, Norco is 45%, but the vast majority of our cities, about 1/3 of the total population actually works, 2/3 does not. And the reason why this is out of the total population, 30 or 40% right off the top, they're too young, too old to work, not able to work. And then about 60% of the people who can work actually work. One of the things our society is dealing with is there are people who are able to work do not. And nationally, it's about there's 7 million men out of our total population who could be working who are not. And so the percentage of people who could be working is actually going down. It used to be closer to 70%, now it's 60%. And so there's a lot of focus on what are called work trips. People driving to work, and that's thought that that's what's causing all our congestion. Actually, that's not. Our most common trip type is people going from home to something else. I would say this. I have on occasion had to pick up my daughter from high school. She goes to San Diego High School in Corona, which has 4,500 students. The congestion there is horrible. If I want to pick her up at 3:30, I have to be there at 2 to get a spot in the pickup line. So if you want to see what congestion is like, go to a high school and see how hard it is to get to that high school. But it's not just school, it's people going shopping, people eating, and our lives are very complex. The other thing that's happening is we have a lot of non-home-based trips. These are deliveries, as I said, maintenance trips. One thing I would encourage you to do is the next time you're driving around, look around for vans with logos, or pickup trucks that have ladders or equipment attached to them. They're contractors. There's a very large number of these trips, and they're also small delivery vehicles. It's not all big trucks. So our modern society is built on these people who are driving not from their home to work, but making these business trips. And that's actually about a third of all of our trips. So if we look at the I-15 going south into San Diego, at most 40% of the trips are work trips. So during the morning peak hours, work trips are causing congestion. There's also people going to school, there's people going to see the doctor, and then the rest of the trips are all these non-home-based trips. So the reason why this matters is that if you're going to try to fix congestion, you have to have strategies that work for all three of those trip types, and they're not the same. So I would like to point out that it is very common for people to live in one city and work in another, or travel to that other city. In Menifee, about half the trips that start in Menifee stay in Menifee, the other half go. You are towards I would say roughly the middle, a little bit better than average, but the highest we get is 60%, which means on average, even under the best circumstances, 40% of people, so if you look at Moreno Valley, for example, they have the highest, and it's still 60%, which means 40% of the trips in Moreno Valley are leaving that city. And so what we have found, it's very common for people to live in one city, but they tend to shop in another, or they tend to eat in another. And I would also argue sometimes people don't even really necessarily know what city they're driving to. They just know they go to this restaurant or this store, and they aren't necessarily cognizant of what city that is. And so as I talked, there's a very low number of people who live and work in the same city. Temecula and Riverside are the highest at 25. Menifee's a little on the low side at 8. But I would also say, relatively speaking, you're about average. And then when we have looked at the entire region, we have found that about 10% of the people in the WRCOG region live and work in the same city. And thinking that was the outlier, we then looked at San Bernardino, Orange, and San Diego County and found the numbers very similar. I would also add that they're also getting worse. So if you look across those 4 counties, the number of people who live and work in the same cities, percentage of people living and working in the same cities is going down. Now, let's take it up to a higher level. People living and working in the same county, and those numbers are going down too. And for Riverside and San Bernardino, it's less than 50. For Orange County, it's 64%. And for San Diego, it's less than 79%. But they have all gone down since 2002. And so if we compare Menifee against what I would say is other cities of the same size, again, you're on the low end. But I would also say that you're not that too far off from some of your, I would say, peer cities. And as you know, in many cases, these are cities that have been around 30 years, 30 plus years. So you all have grown recently, and you have a lot of growing to do. But this is something I did want to point out. And then, again, this is for the WRCOG region. Now, one of the reasons why you have, relatively speaking, so few people live and work is you have a lot more people than you have jobs. So you have three employed residents for every job. That's one of the highest ratios. The average is about 1.5. I would point out, though, that there are 3 employed residents for every 2 jobs in Western Riverside County. But even then, we're importing people. So what happens on a daily basis is we don't have enough jobs for the people who live here, and so then they leave the county. But at the same time, we're also importing people. So there are people in Orange County, San Diego, San Bernardino, LA County, who work in Riverside County. So what this shows is you can't tell people where to live and work. They're going to live where it makes sense for them, and they're going to work where it makes sense for them. And what we have found is minimizing commute time to work is not an important criteria for many people. But essentially, the city has people so these are major employment categories. So professional services might be lawyers, construction, agriculture, that's construction workers, education, healthcare, public administration, that's all public employees, so teachers, nurses, city staff, retail, trade, hospitality, that's fairly self-explanatory, and logistics and utilities. So you have residents that work in each of these categories, and you have jobs in each of these categories. But you have a significant surplus of residents versus jobs. So the thing I want to point out is, even if you brought more jobs to the city, you wouldn't necessarily make congestion get better, and here's why. So on a daily basis right now, you have about 40,000 people in Menifee that work, and you have 16,000 jobs in the city. What we have noticed, though, is that the highest rate of internalization you can get is 25%. So if, let's say, you bought 40,000 jobs to the city of Menifee, at best, 25% of them would be people living in the city. The vast majority would be filled by people who do not live in the city. And the reason why we know that is, as I said, we looked at every city in LA, Orange, San Bernardino, and San Diego County. Sorry, not LA, Riverside. And so one thing that really struck me was Irvine. So Irvine has 300,000 residents, 300,014 residents exactly. 125,000 of them are employed. There's 300,000 jobs in Irvine, so you would think there's plenty of jobs for all the people who work in Irvine. No, on a daily basis, they have 90,000 people that leave the city to go work. They have 34,000 people that live and work in the city, and then they're importing 260,000. So if you add a significant number of jobs to a city, it's very likely that those people will not all be living and working in the city, and that's happening for a variety of reasons. So I wanted to point out that we have contracted with a big data provider to get detailed information on where individual car trips from your city goes. I showed this at a WCOG meeting, but I wanted to point out that when we've looked at this, there are no clusters. People are going everywhere. So for example, someone from Menifee went to Cal Poly Pomona, not surprisingly. Somebody went to Santa Fe Springs for a business park. You have people going to San Diego County, San Bernardino County, LA, Orange County, and all throughout Western Riverside County. So the question is, could we bring companies to Riverside County and then reduce congestion? However, so our answer is maybe a little bit. However, we would conclude that adding jobs is going to actually make congestion worse at a local and regional level. So at that point, we had answered the initial question we got, but we didn't want to stop there because we'd collected all of this great data that we wanted to share with you all, and we're sharing this with all of our members. So we wanted to take it a step further. So we wanted to say, okay, well, let's look at the strategies the state wants to do. How effective are they going to be? So the state, as you know, is pushing high-density housing in places like Orange County, LA, San Diego County. Here's the problem is a lot of that's unaffordable. Housing is expensive as is, but I can tell you that a new home in Orange or San Diego County is roughly double what it is in Riverside County. And also, our folks at the state level seem to forget that we have a really nice lifestyle, and Riverside County is a great place to live. So people aren't living here just because it's cheap housing. They're living here because it's a great quality of life. And so what I think people often lose sight of is how important it is for people to own a home. It's an important psychological factor. They have done surveys and found that if you take 2 people who make exactly the same amount of money, the person who's owning the home feels more secure, feels more successful than the person who doesn't. I would ask, do any of you know someone who hasn't left California to find cheaper housing? And when they leave California, my experience has been for my friends and my coworkers, they're always going to buy a house. They're not leaving to go rent, they're leaving to go buy. And so when people leave Riverside County, they're going to places like Texas, rural Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, places where you can actually afford a home. They're not moving to New York City, they're not moving to Seattle, they're not moving to downtown LA, they're moving to places they can own a home. And that's what I think we are losing sight of, particularly those folks at the state level, that it is so important to people, they will do anything they can to own that home. And so, just briefly, let's talk about how people decide where to live. Safety, cleanliness, access to schools, access to family, weather, history, all these things. Everyone has a different set of priorities and different things that matter to them. So if you think about why you moved to Menifee, think about your particular some things were very important to you, others were not. And oftentimes we fall into this trap, I think, of generalizing, or like, oh, millennials don't want to buy houses. Well, maybe they can't afford them, but then again, not all millennials the same. Like, we tend to group people and say, well, everyone wants this. Well, and that's really not true. So another thing that we see a big push for at the state level is, well, let's get more transit. So for example, in this case, let's get more rail service. Well, here's some problems is we don't have a train that goes to Menifee right now. It doesn't deal with those non-work trips. It doesn't deal with goods movement, businesses, and even if you do have a rail station, it's really hard to get around. We had a young lady working for us who went to UC Irvine for 2 years, and she never took the train because it would take her longer to get from the train station in Tustin to UCI than it was for her to drive from Corona to UCI. And that's the decision that people are making. And here's something else. We've heard this too, like, oh, well, let's stop the development. Let's not have any new development. Here's the problem is, while we are a fast-growing region, we really only add about 1% to our population a year. To throw out round numbers, there's about 650,000 dwelling units in western Riverside County, and we build about 6,000 or 7,000 a year. What that means is 90% of the traffic that's there today isn't going away. And we grow a small amount every year, so we would have the same congestion problems even if we stopped development. So here's something, the questions I would say is, well, does that mean we just don't need more jobs? Yes, we do. Our region would benefit from having jobs, increased city revenue, gives your residents more opportunities for shopping and eating, greater abilities to attract and retain residents and diversifying your base. And while you can't tell your residents where to work or your workers where to live, there are some things you can do to make sure that you're able to grow your economy within those constraints. So one of the things I think would not make sense is to go pay some company to relocate to Menifee. And here's how we came up with this. We said, okay, let's come up with a hypothetical company. And let's say they want to have an office building, and the city's going to subsidize that office building. It's going to put $5 million into an office building that's $12.5 million. Okay, so what you've now done is, that's a 50,000 square foot building, you get 4 workers per 1,000 square feet. So there's 200 people working there. In all likelihood, they're not all going to come from Menifee. As I said, at most, it's 25%. So you've now spent $5 million, so 50 people who live in Menifee right now can actually work in Menifee. So if you have $5 million to spend on that, please feel free. I don't think that's the most cost-effective thing. But here's what we have found works is, I truly believe, and this is what the evidence shows, is that you cannot have a vibrant city if you're not providing a quality of life. The city has a very desirable demographic from a business perspective. Your income is much higher than the countywide average. You all invest, as someone who oversees the TUMP program, I've seen the city do tremendous things with the infrastructure projects. You do a great job there. Helping your city grow, retain existing businesses, that's really important. But I think the other thing is we need to give people options. People are going to want options on where they live, where they work. And what you can do as a city is really give people those options. And if you give people those options and you provide a high quality of life, which I think we would all agree you do, then your economy will grow organically. Companies will want to be here, businesses will want to be here, businesses will want to stay here. And we believe that's the most effective thing the city can do. So what I want, and I've been doing this presentation to other councils, and what I have said is, and I truly believe this is, you're in the position you're in because of what your councils 5, 10, 15 years ago, the founding fathers of Menifee, they made decisions that set the city on a course. And you're in that same position. You're going to be, in my opinion, the city's at a point where you're going to be making some crucial decisions in the near future, and that's going to set the city on its course. You have a lot of assets. As I said, you have the demographics, you've got the quality of life. If you can maintain that, I believe that your city will essentially grow, and that has worked in others, and I believe that can work in Menifee as well. So Mayor, members of the council, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. That is comprehensive. We appreciate that. Council, I'll open it up for questions. I don't see any in the queue. Oh, I have a couple. Oh, all right. Dynas, I'll go ahead. Councilman Dynas, I'll go ahead and yield. Go ahead.
Thank you. On what you gave us the options to attract more people was housing and urban form. What's an urban form?
So essentially, what I believe is some people want to live in your typical suburban neighborhood. Some people might want to live in something that's a little more dense. Some people might want to live in an area that's a little more walkable. One of the things that we have done, this is my opinion, is we don't give people a lot of options. Most of our cities look exactly the same. And I can tell you that when we've looked at new housing in the WCOG region, there's about 10 builders that build 98% of the housing, and pretty much everything, new housing looks pretty much all the same. A lot of our shopping centers look the same. A lot of our businesses look the same. A lot of our places had the same restaurants. And so if you want to create that vibrant type of city, that vibrant city, you need to give people different options. Because some people will like a certain environment, other people won't. And here's the analogy. I like to give analogies is, what we do a lot is, so we're a store that only sells one soft drink, Coke. You want the 8-ounce bottle, the 12-ounce bottle, or the big 20-ounce bottle? And then we say, well, people only want Coke. No, that's all we're giving them. We have, in this region, a lot of what we've built, as I said, looks the same. The difference is where it is. But if you want to attract those new businesses and those new people, giving them options is going to be really important. And I know that because what I would say is one of our most successful cities is Temecula. They have one of the highest rates of people who live and work in the same city. They have one of the highest rates of trips that are internal, and they have one of the highest rates of, they actually have more employees than employed residents. And if you look at the city of Temecula, they have a lot of options. They are building multifamily housing. They're actually one of our, they have built more multifamily housing than most of our cities, including some that are much larger than them. They have a robust economy, and they have a area that looks and feels like a downtown, and they also have suburban neighborhoods that people want to be in. So long story short is give people options, and if they feel, so this is, I think, the formula. If people feel safe, secure, and they have options, they'll want to be here.
Okay, any other council members in the queue? I don't see any. Yeah, Mr. Gray, I appreciate you coming once again. What year was all this information compiled?
Some of it was 2024, some of it was 2022.
Okay.
A lot of our travel data comes from actually earlier this year. Some of it goes back to 2024. The census, all of our census data is 2022, but none of it's any older than, I would say, 2022.
Okay, a couple years. And how often does WRCOG go through these exercises and update their numbers and present it to the body?
We do it. We typically do it about every couple of years. So last year we're more focused on population, housing, and demographics. This year we're a little more focused on community and jobs. So I'm a personal believer, and I preach this to my staff, is we can't just do a study and stick it on a shelf. We need to refresh it. So we're going to be in a position, as we have historically done, is updating these studies every couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I personally appreciate how you tailored it just for our city when you showed up tonight and showed us all the demographics and the trip specifically for Menifee. You know, you could have came and gave us the overall view, but you took the time to tailor it for our city, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate and agree with your recommendation. Cities need to provide a unique identity to get residents to thrive and feel welcomed and come back and spend time there. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Council members,
Yeah, I just want to say, Chris, thank you very much. You gave a version of this at the WRCOG Executive Committee meeting, and I was so impressed. I thought the rest of our council needs to hear this, and I think it's very helpful for the public, too, to understand, you know, the conflicts often between what people think the solutions are and what the solutions actually are, and this really helps kind of cement it right in people's minds to show where people are going. I mean, I was shocked when I saw this data. I was just, the idea that people just don't work and live in the same city no matter how much you offer them was just shocking information to me. So this is just, and helps us guide our economic development also, because we always talk, at WRCOG, we always talk about traffic, but we don't talk about the impacts of traffic on economic development. And that was my focus on this. Like, we're trying to grow our city. How do we best do that? Where are people coming from and going? And that kind of, this data really helps us look to the future. So I appreciate the time and effort.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Carwin, for inviting Mr. Gray. Mr. Gray, thank you so much for attending tonight. We appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Okay, council, next we are moving on to agenda approval or modifications. Madam Clerk, are there any modifications to tonight's agenda?
There are none.
Can I ask the City Council for all in favor to approve the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Next, we're on public comments for non-agenda items. Madam Clerk Rosine, are there any public comments for non-agenda items?
We do.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call? Oh, let me go ahead and read this statement, seeing as we do. This is the time for members of the public to address the council about items which are not listed on the agenda. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the council's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes on any single item. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the first speaker?
Lori Clough, followed by Lupe Jenkins.
Good evening, Ms. Clough.
Hello, sorry. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Lori Clough. Recently, Lupe Jenkins and I met with Councilman Dennis to discuss an urgent need, a City of Menifee animal shelter. Menifee is one of the fastest growing cities in our region. More families mean more pets and more responsibility. Yet we pay nearly $1 million a year to Animal Friends of the Valleys, plus additional fees to Riverside County for animal services without any say in policies, procedures, or how our animals are treated. Some lost pets don't even go to Animal Friends. They're sent to county shelters where most residents don't know where to look. This is happening during a county-wide shelter crisis. Riverside County facilities are operating at over 240% capacity. Healthy adoptable animals are now at risk of euthanasia simply because there's no space. The Board of Supervisors, has acknowledged the crisis, committed to a no-kill goal, and is encouraging cities to build their own shelters, even offering funding partnerships. Meanwhile, Animal Friends' live outcome rate is below that of county live outcome rate. We can do better. A city-run shelter would allow us to control how funds are spent and ensure transparency, provide resources to help residents keep pets during hardship, engage youth in service that builds empathy and responsibility, host adoption events and outreach right here in Menifee, something we've never had under our current arrangement. Right now, the city's website and Menifee Matters offers almost no information on lost pets, adoptions, or volunteer opportunities, just the phone number. We're missing a chance to connect residents with the help and hope they need. This is about more than convenience. It's about accountability, compassion, and building a community that values its animals as much as its people. As Menifee grows, the need for a local shelter will only grow with it. I'm asking you to formally study the feasibility and benefits of a Menifee-run shelter and make it a priority in city planning. With the county's crisis and their willingness to help fund city shelters, the time to act is now. Thank you for your time and for considering a future where every Menifee animal has a nice place to call home.
Thank you, Mrs. Clough. Next speaker, Madam Clerk.
Lupe Jenkins, followed by Mike Knighton.
Good evening, Ms. Jenkins.
Hi. Some of you may have remembered me from last year, or maybe it was 2 years. Got the name the Dog Lady. I am speaking on the same subject that Lori is. We have worked tirelessly, Lori especially. I know how the woman dives like she does, but she does. And we are, when I came before you before, said pretty much a lot of the same things that Lori's telling you today, which shows you that we have not made any progress. However, what I am seeing happen through social media is it's starting to bubble up with the residents. The residents are starting to get upset. The residents are starting to feel uncomfortable about what's going on. The residents don't like to see that there are groups of them going out to feed hungry animals because nobody else is doing anything about that, or that animals are in the system but nobody knows where they are, or that there's so many dying, just being euthanized because they're just too full. So I come to back up Lori and her information, but also to warn the council that you were able to ignore me for 2 years, but I'm back. I'm an old lady with nothing else to do, okay? So this is a goal of mine, hopefully before I retire upstairs, hopefully, and we're going to just keep on this, but for the benefit of our community and our residents and our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Mike Knighton, followed by Jeff Moss.
Welcome, Mr. Knighton.
Lori, Lupe, I'm glad I saw your meeting the other day with Dean, so I hope that worked out for you. Good evening, council. Tonight I'm going to talk about Measure DD. It's been about 7, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, I don't know, since I've left that position as chair. I still keep in touch with those guys over there because that's kind of like, they're a piece of my heart over there. Recently found something out. Going back to, get my train of thought here, the fire truck that you guys had out here a couple weeks ago. I'm assuming that was Measure DD funds that paid for some or part of that. DD members were not invited. We had Menifee night at the Storm Stadium the other night. Measure DD members were not invited. There's been some other instances. They're just not invited. They're your guys's too. You guys all hand selected them. Phone call, email, it would go a long way. Late last year, you guys brought up the thing about committee members, commission members coming up. Citizens Academy, get them involved in the city. They're going to be our next council. If they're not getting communication for a simple thing like a baseball game, I'm not saying buy them a ticket or nothing. Just hey, we're doing it. Like I know June, she's not here tonight. She's not even on social media. So when we advertise the game last week on social media, she has no idea. So I don't know, let's not ignore them, so reach out to them. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Jeff Moss.
Welcome, Mr. Moss.
Thanks for everyone for having me here, giving me a chance to speak. Jeff Moss, I've been here with my family for about 14 years. We really, really love it here in Menifee. Just have a couple of issues. One is a bad road, and the second is weeds. The bad road I'm talking about is Garbani Road, where it intersects with Menifee Road, and it continues, I think, eastbound, like towards the new school, Sally Baselt School. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. That road is really, really bad. A lot of potholes. It really needs a repair, and I'm not too sure where that is on the repair roster or if it's scheduled anytime. It'd be nice to know if it is. And second, there's a lot of weeds that are growing around the Sally Baselt Elementary School, and it's my understanding that there was a fire not too long ago on Briggs Road, close to that school. So that's just like a safety issue that comes to mind now because, well, we have a grandson that that goes to that school. So it's been brought to our attention because we sometimes take him to school and we see all that. So those are just two concerns that me and my family have about the road and the weeds. If you guys plan on clearing those weeds or the brushes so that there's no fire issues. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Is our Public Works Director, Nick Fiddler, here? Okay, Director Fiddler's in the back, and he can add clarification to the capital improvement plan in that area for you, sir. Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any other public speakers?
No other speakers.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we're on council member updates and comments. This is a time for the City Council to provide any updates or comments on meetings and events they have attended. I'll start to my right. Councilmember Diedrich, will you please lead us off, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, I've attended a couple of back-to-school nights, first at Chester Morrison Elementary and at Paloma Valley High School. I've also attended the Menifee Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. I think all 5 of us were at Menifee night with the storm, which was a great event. And yesterday, all 5 of us were at the Police Department Annual Awards Ceremony, another great event. That's all I have to report on.
Thank you, Councilmember Diedrich. Next, Councilmember Temple.
Yeah, Mayor. On the 27th, I attended a Parks Ad Hoc Committee meeting. On the 28th, also the Menifee night at Storm Stadium. The 2nd of this month, I attended an Interfaith Council meeting. And then later on that day, also attended the Menifee Police Department Awards Ceremony. And then this morning, I attended a business grand opening at the Himalayan Taste restaurant.
Thank you, Councilmember Temple. Next, Councilmember Dynas.
Thank you, Mayor. August 27th, I attended RTA's T-Now meeting for the Southwest Riverside County. On the 28th, I attended the RTA Board of Directors meeting. As already been mentioned, the Menifee Night at the Storm and the annual PD Award ceremony. And then today, I attended the RTA Administration and Operations Subcommittee. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Dynas. Next, Mayor Pro Tem Carwin.
Thank you. I attended the Senior Appreciation Day luncheon at the Case Inacero Center. It was a great event. Then there was a group also doing an update on eligibility for burial at the Riverside Military Cemetery. So I popped in over there and spoke to those folks for a little bit. I attended the Del Webb Cimarron Ridge Community Center groundbreaking, which was cool. It's going to be a great 55-plus community up in Cimarron Ridge. Some of our executive staff was there. I was at the Live Jam concert at the center. I think Councilman Temple was there for that. Don't worry, I got you. He was there for that. That was a great event over there. I attended the RCTC Budget and Implementation Committee meeting. Rotary, we started Paloma Valley High School mock trial, of which I'm a volunteer coach. I was with all of my colleagues at Menifee Night at the Storm Stadium, all together at the annual PD Awards ceremony, and then with Councilman Temple today at the Himalayan Taste ribbon cutting. So new Nepalese Indian restaurant in the Newport Plaza over by Big Brand Tires now, and Carnitas Express in there. So they're open for business. Go enjoy it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Carwin. I attended the Parks Ad Hoc Committee with Councilmember Temple. We were at the Menifee Night at Storm Stadium. Got to throw out the first pitch, and Mayor Pro Tem Carwin caught it. Nice glove flip, by the way. I forgot to tell you that. I also attended the 2025 Police Academy Award ceremony. All 5 of us council members were there supporting our police department. Chief Carr, we got your back. Right. And those are all my updates for now. Okay, next, we are on approval of the minutes. This is one set of minutes for the council's consideration. Does the council have any modifications? Hearing none, can I ask the city council for all in favor of approving the August 20th meeting minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting minutes are approved. Next, we are on the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are to be approved in one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item on the consent calendar. If an item is removed from the consent calendar, it will be discussed individually and acted upon separately. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on consent calendar items tonight?
There are none.
Okay. Are there any items the council wishes to pull for further discussion? Oh, Councilmember Diedrich, I see you in the queue. Yes, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. 2 items. First, on item number 10.3, I want to make notice that in my professional life, I've had business dealings with MPG Inc., and so I will need to recuse myself on voting on that matter. And then additionally, on item 10.7, I'd like to pull that one for further discussion, please.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Diedrich. So Councilmember Diedrich would like to recuse himself from 10.3. And also, when we pull items for discussion, Councilmember Diedrich requested 10.7 on the Quail Valley Fire Station to be pulled separately. So City Attorney Melching, my question for you is, can we go ahead and approve the balance with Councilmember Diedrich recusing himself? Can we approve all of it in one motion with the recusal on 10.3, or do we have to take separate action on 10.3?
You can do the first thing. If you vote on the consent agenda, the clerk will make a note that Councilmember Dietrich recused himself from item 10.3.
Okay, thank you, City Attorney Melching. That makes it easier, no problem. Okay, can I get a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar as modified? Okay. We have a motion and a second. And that passes 5-0 with the note from Councilmember Diedrich on 10.3. And next, we had a pulled item, 10.7. Councilmember Diedrich, what would you like for 10.7?
If we could, I would just like a quick presentation on the opening of the new fire department number 5, fire
Okay.
station number 5.
All right, thank you. Who do we have from staff here to present for 10.7? I see Mr. Geronimo coming up to the podium. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just covering really quick for Nick. I think he's talking to a resident out there, but I'll go ahead and start a presentation, if you don't mind. Okay.
I think Nick is coming, so if you want.
He's coming? All right.
He was ready for that.
All right.
Thank you,
He's
Carlos.
on his way. You're safe, Geronimo. You're safe.
I guess I'm not saved. Not saved by the bell. Okay. So, Quail Valley Fire Station 5 was completed back in December of last year. Here are some pictures of the completed structure. So this is the outside, and then the garage doors and the back side of the building. Here are some pictures of the interior of the building. It's a nice facility, much better than what the firefighters had with the old Fire Station 5, where it was very deteriorated, an old building, had issues with plumbing. So they enjoy a nice facility that where can they be much more efficient with their work. Okay. So here's a quick rundown of the project costs towards the end. In design, we have $1.4 million, 1.47. Furniture costs us about $115,000. Construction management, support inspection, about $661,000. And the construction contract with Act 1, $8.9 million. So the total cost for the project from design all the way to close out, it's $11.154 million. So approximately 51% of the budget was through a quality of life measure. That was a big funding to close the gap on this project. And we also had ARPA funds and some DIF funds specifically for fire department. So, and that completes the project. And filing the notice of completion tonight, we'll pretty much start the maintenance period of 1 year for this project, and will allow us to close out the project completely. Okay, on that, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Geronimo. I see Mayor Pro Tem Carwin. Go ahead.
How long did it take to build that fire station?
It did take longer than anticipated, and that's because there were some long lead items that were anticipated because of COVID and everything. The generator, backup generator, it took almost 18 months to acquire, to procure. Before that, it didn't take that long, so that kind of extended the project all the way to close out. So the project was pretty much done back in December, and then 2-3 months later is when the generator arrived.
But overall, from the time it was funded to the time it was open?
That just the construction portion of it?
Yeah.
I want to say almost 2 years. Yeah, a little shy of 2 years.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Diedrich.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mr. Geronimo, for your presentation and taking time. And I requested to pull this just because I think this is a fantastic asset for both for our residents and for our firefighters. And I wanted to show that off. And I wanted to thank, Measure DD had a huge part in funding this. We're grateful for that. And I just wanted to, highlight that this is what it looks like when a city actually values and funds their public safety.
Yeah, too bad some of the neighbors can't do that, but we'll be all right. We're doing our part, right? Well, thank you, Mr. Geronimo and Director Fiddler. We appreciate you presenting and all your hard work you do behind the scenes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve?
I'll move.
Okay. Oh, I beat you, Councilmember Dynas. Oh, Stephanie Rosien overturned me. Okay, you can have it. All right, we have a second by Dynas. Okay, that passes 5-0. Next, we're on public hearing items. This is 11.1, first reading and ordinance introduction of annexation number 28 Nova Power into CFD 2017-1 maintenance services. Council, do you want to hear a presentation or go straight to the public hearing? Straight to the public hearing. All right, it's unanimous. Straight to the public hearing. Okay. Council, any questions for staff at this time? Hearing none. Okay, the public hearing is open now at 6:58. Madam Clerk, can you confirm this public hearing was legally noticed?
Yes, it was.
Madam Clerk, is there any public testimony?
There is none.
Have any written protests been received?
There are none.
Are there any persons registered to vote in the territory of the district?
There are none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, have the owners of all the taxable property consented to holding the special election immediately following the public hearing?
Yes, they have.
Madam Clerk, do you concur that the special election may be held this evening?
I do.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:59. Council, do we have any other questions or would we like to discuss? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
To confirm, this is a motion to approve the resolution calling the election.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that resolution calling the election passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, have you received the official ballots and waivers from the landowners who can cast their votes on behalf of the owners of all of the property?
Yes, I have, and it was a yes vote.
Okay. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution declaring election results? I'll motion.
I'll second.
That passes 5-0. Madam Clerk, can you introduce the ordinance, please?
An ordinance of the City of Menifee, California, amending ordinance number 2017-231 and levying special taxes to be collected during fiscal year 2025-26 to pay the annual cost of the maintenance and services of street lights, parks, parkways, streets, roads, and open space, the operation and maintenance of storm drainage systems, a reserve fund for capital replacement, and administrative expenses with respect to the City of Menifee Community Facilities District number 2017-1 maintenance services, annexation number 28.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we will have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance by vote. I'll move it.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Excellent. Next, we're on discussion items. This is 12.1, CFD goals and policies amendments. Could I please ask Director Hickey to present? Oh, I see Mrs. Cornejo. Good evening, Mrs. Cornejo.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council members, staff, and members of the public. I am Margarita Cornejo, Deputy Finance Director, and we have a short presentation today to summarize some updates to the city's current special assessments and community facilities district goals and policy, or policy number CC20. So to summarize CFD's history, their update, and their purpose, the community facilities districts are authorized under the Melrose Act of 1982 to fund public improvements and services through property tax assessments. I do want to take the moment to highlight that the city participates in both the services side as well as the public improvement side. On the services side, this is a mandatory requirement that we put both residential and commercial developments to participate on because it provides dedicated revenue sources to fund crucial ongoing services such as park maintenance, street sweeping, traffic signals, street lights, and so forth. So the services side is a mandatory one. That's actually the one of the public hearing that you guys just conducted, is an annexation into our services side. On the public improvement side, that is a voluntary program that is available for the city, through the city, for development at their request to participate in it and use this as a mechanism to finance some of the public infrastructure that they are responsible for. So again, that's a voluntary program. When a development is coming to fruition, if a development is interested in participating in that, they may contact with city staff, submit a deposit and an application to move forward with the formation, and then we go through the process of formation all the way through bond issuance. The city's original CFD policy was adopted in 2011 and was really focused on the services side because we had our Audie Murphy CFD and Hidden Hill CFD coming to be. Then in 2020, where the city took a more proactive role in the infrastructure bonded CFD area, the policy was comprehensively updated to what we now have, CC 20. Most recently, the city went through looking at the existing policy to reflect some changes in the development landscape and to strengthen our overall financial protection in how we manage. The proposed changes are all really more in the parameters of the public improvements. There are 5 total. These were proposed and reviewed by the Finance Committee on July 8th of this year and are now being presented for City Council consideration. So the first proposed change is related to small developments, and this is to address where a development is less than 100 units that the city may require additional security in the form of a secondary reserve. This is to address the potential risk of having a higher delinquency rate. Obviously, the smaller a development is, these CFDs carry certain things like foreclosure covenants to ensure that those bonds are as safe as possible. So the smaller the development is, the higher risk you have of potentially exceeding that kind of foreclosure covenant. So by adding this additional security, it gives more protection to that CFD in itself. The second recommended change relates to rental conversions, and this is updating the policy to say that CFD financing will not be offered for projects where 10% or more of the units are intended for rental use unless the developer receives prior written approval from the city. This change is a response to some recent events. We most recently had encountered something similar with Cimarron Ridge Development Project. And so this is, again, in the vein of if the city is going to navigate and offer this opportunity for development, that it really is consistent with the city's approach to encourage home ownership and so forth. So this 10% threshold kind of sets a limit for developments if they are intending to look for a bonded CFD, to understand that through the formation all the way through bond issuance, the city would be in agreement with allowing them to participate so long as no more than 10% of the units are sold over for rental purposes. The third change would be deposit requirements, and this just updates the required deposit for CFDs. The formation costs are to be all covered and encompassed by the development itself and not covered by any other city revenue sources. So based on the cost of formation from when we first started navigating kind of this journey, the costs now are at $70,000. So it is just updated to reflect that, and it also provides clarity for the chief financial officer to increase this amount if costs rise, and it just eliminates the reference of the previous deposit amount. The fourth change is debt burden relief, and this articulates and defines the city's and council's intent to reduce residents' debt burden by proactively monitoring economic conditions and pursuing refunding opportunities when they result in a lower special assessment. So as the cities progress in age, they typically have a debt service of about 30 years, and there will be a time when the city can look at refunding those and taking those savings and passing them on as reduced assessments to property owners. And then the last recommended change is a letter of credit flexibility, which provides the city manager and chief financial officer the opportunity to waive the line of credit requirements on a case-by-case basis in instances where homes are technically sold, but they just haven't officially closed by the time the preliminary official statement is posted. So that summarizes our changes on the policy. The recommended action for today is for the council to approve the amended City Council Special Assessments and Community Facilities District Goals and Policy numbers CC 20, and staff recommends to move forward with such as these would kind of align with the city's intent to remain responsive, financially sound, and aligned with our current development practices. We are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cornejo. Council, do we have any questions at this time? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak?
There are none.
Okay. Council will then move on to discussion or comments. Any discussion or comments? Okay, I have a few comments. I just think it was really important that Councilmember Dynas and I brought this forward for the rest of my colleagues to review, because this affects homeowners and the financing of their homes and the opportunity for them to get into home ownership. And one of the two policies I wanted to highlight, or that really stand out to me, is the rental conversions, with the developers coming in and buying a big portion or bulk of the houses, and they're getting the benefit of our low interest bonds and financing, and they're taking the condominiums off and the single residents off the market, when those condominiums or single family homes can give younger families an opportunity to get in and become homeowners. And if they're going to be getting the benefit of our low interest rates, we should bring that before us and say, hey, are we really doing the best to serve our residents and giving them an opportunity to get in to these condominiums and the single family homes instead of for rent? And then the second thing I think is really important, and I'm very happy to hear that our finance team is going to be proactively looking to always refinance the bonds and lower the debt for these property taxes, and give our residents lower property taxes as the houses mature over time. So I think those are two very important goals I wanted to highlight in this, and those are my comments. Council, any other comments? Or I see none. Okay. Then can I ask for a motion and a second to approve the amendment to policy number CC 20 as presented?
Second.
That passes 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Cornejo. Next, we're on 12.2, memorialization of governance planning during the mayor's deployment and appointments to city council committees and regional boards and commissions. I see Mrs. Aguilar. Good evening, Mrs. Aguilar. Can you please introduce the item?
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Edna Aguilar, Assistant City Clerk with the City Clerk's Department. And tonight I'm here to present item 12.2, governance planning during the mayor's deployment and appointments to city council committees and regional boards and commissions. So just a little bit of a recap from last council meeting. At the August 20th council meeting, council reached consensus to appoint current council Mayor Pro Tem Carwin to continue serving in his role as Mayor Pro Tem through December of 2026. Council also provided direction to staff to bring back the full city council standing ad hoc committees, regional boards, and commission appointment roster for council's review. 3 key points, one of them being tonight, as well as the designation of an alternate presiding officer to be appointed later tonight. The resolution presented tonight is a summary memorializing those decisions made. Which brings us to our discussion item number 1, where staff is requesting council discuss and designate an alternate presiding officer to serve as Mayor Pro Tem in the absence of Mayor Pro Tem. This designation would only remain in effect during the mayor's leave and would no longer be necessary once the mayor's return. So I will open it up for council if you choose to.
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar. We appreciate the presentation. Council, I'll start off. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Hearing none. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next, council, we are going to move on to the discussion and comments. The three things we have to address is, one, we'll adopt the proposed resolution. Two, we need to designate a alternate officer should Mayor Pro Tem Carwin be unavailable. And then three, we need to appoint the vacancies of my regional boards
Mayor.
and local committees.
So if you're okay with it, I can stop here and we can go ahead and do the designation of the alternate presiding officer. And then we can continue on to discussion item number 2, which would be the appointment on the regional boards and commissions.
Okay. So let's start off with designation of the alternate officer. I'll open it up for discussion and see what my colleagues are comfortable with.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that I would nominate Councilman Dynas just because he's the longest term member on this council.
That has my support as well. Councilmember Dynas has the experience and the seniority and the merit put in towards the city council, and I think he would do a fine job.
Comes with a car allowance, right?
Yes, we'll double your current car allowance.
Okay, council, any other comments on an alternate officer? Okay, looks like we have some consensus. Councilmember Dynas will be the alternate presiding officer. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Next, Mrs. Aguilar, would you like to go forward with part 3?
Yep.
Okay.
So as item number 2 of tonight's presentation, staff is requesting council review and discuss the appointments to the regional boards and committees. These will be effective as of the mayor's deployment and through the mayor's anticipated return. I do have a summary page right here, and then if I could also have IT pull up our clerk's screen. So at this point, we can go ahead and discuss if there are any modifications to the roster.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Aguilar. So regarding the regional committees, we have WRCOG alternate. Any volunteers? Oh, all right, we see a hand. All right, Councilmember Diedrich. All right, thank you, sir. That sounds good. Next, we have 3 local committees. We can start off with finance at the top. This usually meets every couple months on a Tuesday, historically. Okay, Councilmember Temple, thank you for stepping up, sir. Next, we have the City and Schools Committee. This is annually. The next one will be coming up in the next couple months. Any volunteers? Okay. All right, Councilmember Diedrich likes schools. All right. He's good with kids. It'll be a good fit. Okay, next we have the Parks Ad Hoc Committee. Okay, Councilmember Dynas steps in. Okay, excellent. Looks like we have them all filled up, Mrs. Aguilar.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation and your help.
IT, if I could have the PowerPoint back. Okay, so at this time, staff will move to recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution memorializing the direction provided at the August 20th council meeting, ratify the designation of Councilmember Dynas as the alternate presiding officer, and ratify the appointments to the regional boards and committees as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar. Okay, can I get a motion and a second to approve that description Mrs. Aguilar just provided? Okay,
I'll move.
we have a move.
I'll second.
That passes 5-0. Next, we're on city attorney report. City Attorney Melching, do you have anything to report?
No, not tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
City Manager Villa, do you have anything to report?
No reports.
Future agenda requests. Council, do we have any future agenda requests? Hearing none. We are adjourned at 7:17. Good night, Menifee.